actually feel, oh no, so too soon.
I haven't done that in so long.
Hip flexors towards my belly.
Okay, we are going to do a mic'd up straddle press session because I want to train, but I have these rips on my hand from gymnastics last night. So I wrote up a session in my notes, always go in with a plan. And I figured this would be a good one to film just because I haven't directly trained presses in a couple of years, just because I've trained them for a while, so I'm pretty conditioned with them. So I tend to have them quite regularly. But when I was training for them, I was going really hard on my pancake flexibility, my compression strength, and my straight arm press strength, which requires a lot of scapular elevation, that feeling like squeezing your ears for you to push up. I'll break it all down as we're kind of going through the session. If you are new to presses, you do need to dedicate time to those aspects of it, the flexibility part and the press part. So it tends to be like a whole session, but I figured this one would be a good one to film because I'm actually going to take you through the beginner parts of it. But always start with a wrist warm up. No matter what level of training you're at, warm up your wrists. First knuckle push-ups first. They are a must, so we're gonna go for 10. I think the biggest thing that I see wrong with these is that people like use heaps of momentum. You wanna keep it strict and focused on like lengthening your fingertips. And then you're gonna turn them over and you can do these things that I call bowl ups because I don't actually know what they're called. Again, we'll do 10. But I think bowl ups is a good name because you're literally putting your wrists into balls. This one, the way I was taught, you pretend like you're holding pencils in your hand, and then you're going to rock back to put your elbows down, and then you're going to pretend like you're trying to dig the pencil forward into the floor. So rock back, elbows, pencil. Or an easier cue is like, just put your thumbs to the floor when you come forward. And we're gonna do 10 of those. For me, that's kind of all I need to warm up my wrists, but if you're a beginner and you're not used to like this much density on your wrist to begin with, or this much volume on your wrists, I would say do those 3 movements for like 2 sets. If you're brand new, probably do it for 3 sets. Everyone's sessions should be individualized to where they're at. When it comes to presses, we want to focus on pancake flexibility. I've been slacking on my flexibility and haven't really done it in a while, so I'm gonna start with these 2 sets of like a pancake prep, I guess we could call it. If you're brand new to flexibility training and to pancakes in general, what we're about to do, which I call a tailors pose, is going to be really great for opening up your hips and getting you used to, or getting you prepared to be in a pancake. It's good to do this against a wall. You're going to pop yourself as close as you can, your heels, as close as you can to your groin. And then, if you're brand new, you could probably start with body weight. I do have experience doing these, so I'm gonna make it weighted. And we're just gonna start with a 30-second passive stretch. So this is your tailors pose. Pop these weights on, and I'm just gonna relax. Can she relax? We're about to find out. Okay, so while these 30 seconds are going, I'm gonna explain the next part because we're gonna do these contractions. Now you'll probably need weights just because you want the feedback of what to like push up against. But for 5 seconds, you're going to use your glutes to think about pulling your knees down to the floor away from the weights. And then for another 5 seconds after that, you're then going to press the weights down and then push your knees up against the weights. So you're thinking about activating through the inner thighs. So we're kind of working with opposing muscles for the 5 seconds. We're gonna do 3 sets of 5 by 5. So 10 plus 10 plus 10 is 30 seconds. So it's a 30-second set. And we're gonna do that first. It's definitely been more than 30 seconds in this stretch. So for 5 seconds, I'm going to pull my knees away from the weights using the glutes. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then for the next 5 seconds, I'm going to push the weights down and try to push my knees up against the weights. Ready, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I'm gonna do that 2 more times. Pull away, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Push up, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pull away, 4, 2, 1, and up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I'm gonna finish off with another 30-second passive stretch. So now everything's relaxing. I gotta say, when it comes to flexibility training, I always wanna skip the prep stuff because it's just long and kind of boring and very slow, really, really slow. But when I do the actual stretching side, of what I'm working towards, so say this is a prep stretch for pancake flexibility, and then when I actually get into the pancake, I feel so much better than if I were to just go into it cold. So if you're new to flexibility training or you're looking to take your flexibility training a bit more seriously, don't skip the prep stuff. It's really, really helpful. I think once you're better conditioned, or maybe you've been training your flexibility for a bit longer, or maybe you already have a full pancake cold, you can probably skip stuff like this. But you're always gonna be better off. With anything, deadlifts, any type of training, gymnastics, you're always gonna have a better session being warm and prepped than going into things cold, no matter how good you are. Pop these off. You wanna think of having a pancake as base flexibility. So your pancake is going to help you in your positioning for a straddle press, but you still need strength in that position. So when you go into a straddle press, you need to be able to, one, be in your pancake position, again, foundation, and then you need to be strong in that position by using your hip flexors to lift the legs upwards in your press. So what we're about to do is a prep drill for your hip flexors. Like with any performance goal, the more specific you train something, the better it is for that goal. So with compression strength, so your hip flexor strength, you can actually train your hip flexors at all kinds of angles, whether that's legs together in a pike position or legs wide in a straddle position. Because this is a straddle press session, we're going to train our hip flexors in that straddle press angle. The higher your bench is in this drill, the harder it's going to be. This is all I have right now, so I think this is gonna be really hard for me. But I'm gonna pop my leg up here. And then from here, I always recommend holding on to a dowel or a pole or something if you're doing this at the gym. I have this P-bar, so I'm gonna hold on to this. Getting PTSD to ballet when I was 4. And I'm going to lift my leg using my hip flexors. I'm gonna try and be really tight everywhere else. I'm gonna hold on to this parallel bar real tight. I'm gonna keep my core on. I'm gonna go into an anterior tilt. So I'm gonna stick my glutes out. And then from here, I'm gonna lock this leg out, lock this leg, and aim to just use my hip flexor. Gymnasts will be you need to point your toes. Personally, I think if you're looking to generate tension, that's either gonna come from a completely pointed position or a completely flexed one. The flexed one, I think maybe people think it looks uglier, but for me, I actually find tension a lot easier to generate in that flex position, so I'm gonna do it in a flex position. But feel free to do it in a pointed one, it's wherever you can feel the most tension. So again, stick the glutes out, hip flexors, and we're gonna lift for 5, and then on the last one, we're gonna hold for 10. I get really crampy doing this, so I'm prepping for the cramps. All right, ready? And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're gonna hold it. And while we're holding it, we wanna think about trying to lift up even higher using the hip flexors. And then if it gets crampy, just knead it. I'm gonna turn over and do it on the other side, and you should too. Let me see how many sets I told myself to do. And this is why we write down what you're gonna do in a session. Normally you'd have a program that you do each week, but again, like I said, this is more of a session I just decided to do because of these puppies. Okay, so that was flexibility prep. I told myself just to do 1 set of those, the tailors pose and the leg lifts. And then we're gonna move on to some more prep, and we're actually gonna get upside down. Let's explain this part first. With a straddle press, you also need to learn how to control your spine, especially your lower spine, so through here. Because if you think about it, we're starting in this position, and yes, your hip flexors are gonna like lift your legs up, but you also need to understand how to curl your spine upwards for you to get from that pancake position to your handstand in a straight line upside down. We're gonna do a little tri-set for 2 sets. The first one is going to help you, 1, get better at your pancake, but 2, also help you learn how to control your spine and to, yes, really hone that skill. So we're about to do a Jefferson curl, and if you've heard of Jefferson curls before, you might see that people do them with their legs together. But again, like I said earlier, with any performance goal, if you're making it specific, it's going to be more beneficial. So instead of doing a Jefferson curl with our feet together, we're going to do a Jefferson curl in a straddle position. So it's going to look more like our pancake, and it's going to look more like what our press will look like. Basically, a straddle Jefferson curl is like a straddle press, but upside down. But then when you do a straddle press, you're upside down. So it's like a right side up straddle press. Yeah. Depending on your flexibility, you might need something really high, like if you can go down quite low. But if you're new, you probably don't need such a high little block. I'm gonna show you from a side view because you kind of wanna see with a Jefferson curl, we're really thinking about, I'm gonna say it, curling the spine. Okay, so you wanna be like nice and slow and intentional when you're doing this movement, because this is like, you can move through something passively and not know why you're doing it and not get the full benefits out of it. Or you can do something with intention and really focus on it so that you can actually get the skill benefits out of it, okay? Especially when it comes to handstands and like calisthenics training, you need to kind of be more intentional with all of your stuff, because it's not just about getting the reps done, it's about how you can improve the quality of the rep each week. Say with like a lot of my clients who are learning presses, they'll stay on 2 Jefferson curls in a set for their whole 4-week program, but the improvement and the progress might not necessarily be that they go higher in the Jefferson curl with weight. It could be, or they might even have like great flexibility to begin with, and that they can already go like quite low into that pancake position. But the improvement for them is going to be, can they control that spine, their spine, better each week? And are they kind of building a further understanding of how to control their spine and what it feels like to properly control their spine each week? And that's not something you're gonna necessarily see video to video. It's something that you're just gonna feel. And I get like a lot of clients replying to or sending me videos and being like, wow, I actually really felt my lower back a lot more this time, or I actually felt that curl be a bit more emphasized, or that I could make that curl happen, you know, just that little bit better. So with stuff like this, the quality and the feeling of it is a big marker of progress versus just increasing the weight or increasing the reps. All right, we're setting up in our straddle press position. I would actually want to do this a bit wider, but this is the box width, so that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna do 2 reps, and on the last rep, we're gonna do a 20-second hold in that fully folded position. So we start by tucking the chin in, and then we're gonna roll through the upper back. My glutes are on, my legs are on. Then I'm gonna roll through the mid back, and then I'm gonna try to roll through the lower back. And then I'm gonna push the dumbbell away from me and squeeze my ears with my shoulders. Then from here, I'm gonna curl up. I'm gonna try to isolate the lower back. I'm gonna pull my stomach in and engage through the core. Oh my God, I'm getting a cramp. Okay, and then the fucking, the mid's back. Oh my God, and then the upper. I haven't done that in so long. I'm gonna do another rep of that, and then I'm gonna hold it for 20 seconds. I promise you, when I was doing this regularly, this did not happen. Oh my God. So don't let this deter you from Jefferson curls. But at least you know I'm contracting. Okay, again, tuck the chin. Upper back first. Pull the belly in. Then the mid back. Curling through the lower spine. Push, actively push the dumbbell down away from you. Hold it for 10.
Hold, hold, hold. Try to push it away from you even more. Try to think about pulling your belly in, pressing the hip flexors up close to your belly as well, because this is compression training. Literally compressing myself. And then from here, curl up through the lower back, then the mid back, and then the upper back.
So basically when you're doing that, you're really paying attention to how it feels to move through the spine. And then the second part of the tricep is compression leg lifts, so kind of similar to what we were doing earlier, where we're going to get into a straddle position. Legs don't have to be too wide because in a straddle press they don't go that wide. For this one, I actually like to point my toes, so I will. I'm gonna press into the floor, create this round hollow position, and then I'm going to use my hip flexors to lift up the legs for 10 reps. My toes are already cramping. Here we go. And now we're finally gonna get upside down. The third exercise in this tricep is a straddle press negative. Similar to your Jefferson curl, we're gonna think about, like, as we lower down, curling the spine. So you're building, again, that understanding of how to control your spine and your hip flexors while upside down. I should have mentioned as well, to like start working on your straddle press, I reckon that you should have at least a 30-second consistent handstand hold. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to do drills like this, because if you have trouble kicking up into a handstand holding it, how on earth are you gonna be able to do sets and reps of kicking up into a handstand and then moving your legs around and focusing on improving the skill of spinal articulation and compression? All right, here we go, kicking up into a negative. So I'm gonna kick up. I'm gonna start here in my line. I'm gonna open up through the legs, and then from here, I'm gonna push the floor away from me, and then I'm going to slowly, slowly lower down. I just put 2 reps of that because I don't wanna gas myself. Once you've done 2 sets of that tricep, we're gonna move on to our next little superset. And I said we're gonna do 3 sets. Now we're gonna get into like specific press work and we were doing specific pancake work, but now we're gonna do your actual pancake. So we're gonna start off with a pancake good morning, 10 reps with a 10-second hold. Okay, a couple things to note. Firstly, when you're doing pancake work, you don't have to be in like your biggest split. With our pancake, it's going to be a weighted stretch. There's a couple of ways to do this. So when you're doing a pancake good morning, you can do it with a round back, that's totally fine. But you can also do a neutral spine variation. I was doing round back more when I was a beginner and with like a lighter weight, but today I'm feeling, I want to say pretty confident, or at least good, because we did those prep stretches. So I'm going to do the neutral spine version. So I'm gonna pop this weight behind my head, onto my shoulders. I'm gonna think about leading with my chest, my stomach actually, and then my chest. I'm gonna keep my legs flexed. And as I lower down, I'm gonna think about pulling my hip flexors towards my belly. I'm gonna be nice to myself and not push it like crazy on the first set. So we're gonna do 10 reps of this. Keep it like nice and slow, especially towards the end, because you're kind of working on pushing your range and you're trying to explore your range of motion. So again, like quality, or I should say, a marker of progression for this is not necessarily doing more reps or doing more weight, but it could be that you're able to get more range, or even if you've got the same range as the week before, you might find that it's easier to get into that range. I lost count of how many I'm doing. So let's do one more, and we're gonna stay tight and we're gonna hold it for 20 seconds on this last rep. So I'm gonna come down into my neutral spine position, and I'm gonna spend the next 20 seconds just trying to push for that little bit more range. Again, I'm staying tight. My quads are flexing, my feet are flexed.
I'm pulling my hip flexors into my chest.
With those good mornings and those 3 sets, that was going to be a superset with press work. So for my plan, I was going to do the first set as 3 straddle presses, second set 3 pike presses, depending on how they feel, and then the third set I was going to go for some stalder negatives, depending on how the pike presses feel before that as well. I might judge and change. So I programmed those because I have my presses, but if you're someone who doesn't yet have your presses, you might need to program a different drill, such as like a wall assisted straddle press, or you could do wall assisted straddle press negatives, or you could keep playing around with like straddle press eccentrics. If you're unsure about what you would program instead, feel free to drop a comment with like your current skill level, and then we can kind of go from there. Straddle press first. Let's see how this goes. Okay, let's give pike presses a go. Best tip I have for pike presses is keep your quads close to your stomach. Compression.
Oh, that actually felt. Oh no. So dizzy.
Okay, pike press. My stalder negatives are like so inconsistent, but we've done some flexibility work. We've prepped with some press stuff. Let's see if I have a negative in me today. I'm gonna press up into it and then see if I can do the negative as well.
Okay, so we're in position. I'm gonna push tall.
So I can't get into the L sit, but straddle sit, I should say. But that's actually alright, considering we haven't been practicing.